Okay.
Alrighty. So, as I consider my background and family of origin, I recognize that I hold several forms of privilege that have shaped my experiences and my worldview. One form of privilege I hold is educational privilege. I attended schools that were adequately funded and had teachers who encouraged academic achievement. And as a result of this, I grew up believing that college was accessible and expected. This privilege has benefited me by allowing me to pursue higher education without major systemic barriers, eventually enabling me to work towards a graduate degree and a future career in counseling. A second form of privilege I have is citizenship privilege. Being a U.S. citizen removes many obstacles that non-citizens regularly face, such as issues facing financial aid, employment barriers, and fear of surrounding legal status. This privilege has benefited me by allowing me to navigate institutions, applying for internships, and engaging in academic programs without legal or linguistic challenges, which many immigrants and undocumented individuals endure. A third form of privilege I experience is able-bodied privilege. I can physically navigate public spaces, academic buildings, and workplaces without needing accommodations. This privilege has benefited me in subtle but significant ways, including not having to worry about accessibility, discrimination, or being excluded from opportunities due to mobility or medical limitations. I recognize that many individuals with disabilities face barriers that I do not have to think about, which reinforces the importance of acknowledging ability as a sociocultural privilege. Reflecting on my upbringing, I can identify prejudice and biases I have held toward groups different from myself. One example is a bias related to socioeconomic status. Growing up, I internalized the belief that individuals living in poverty were unmotivated or responsible for their circumstances. This idea was influenced by media and my family that associated poverty with laziness or criminal behavior, as well as school environments where middle class norms were treated as the standard. Over time, I learned how structural inequalities, generational disadvantages, and systemic oppression shape socioeconomic outcomes, which challenged and reduced the bias. A second prejudice I have held is toward individuals experiencing substance use disorders. Earlier in my life, I viewed addiction as a moral failing or a deliberate choice, largely because I had lacked exposure to harm reduction models and I didn't understand the biological, psychological, and trauma-related components of addiction. Media depictions also reinforced the stereotype that portrayed people with addictions as dangerous, morally weak, or irresponsible. I feel like my education in counseling and my mental health reframes my understanding by showing me the connection between trauma, environment, neurobiology, and addictive behaviors. One way that unexamined prejudice can influence my profession as a counselor is by impacting empathy and rapport. If I were to approach clients with assumptions about their motivation, morality, or responsibility for their circumstances, I could unintentionally create barriers in treatment, reduce trust, or engage in microaggressions. As a future mental health professional, it is crucial that I practice this self-awareness and cultural humility to prevent biases from shaping diagnostic impressions or treatment planning. There are stereotypes and prejudice I know I will need to continue working through to be an effective and ethical counselor, particularly regarding clients from low SES backgrounds and those dealing with addictions. I will work to overcome these biases through strategies such as ongoing self-reflection, seeking supervision, and engaging with diverse communities while practicing cultural humility and continuing my education on systemic and historical inequalities. By doing so, I can better uphold the values, my empathy, unconditional positive regard, and social justice that are foundational to the counseling profession.
Yeah. Well, you said a few things that rang some bells, really true bells for me. I mean, especially around addiction. Um, that's one I don't even have that in my notes, but that's huge.
Yeah,
I
I feel like I didn't I had such a strong bias against the whole addiction thing.
Uh-huh.
because I didn't really grow up with it until later on in my life when I've
Yep.
noticed like my family and all those things.
Yep.
So yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, me too. Like I was a really sheltered kid growing
same.
up. I mean, I'm a lot older than you, obviously, but I think I still harbor these feelings.
Yeah.
Um, that's good. That's something that has definitely come up for me a few times, and it's almost like kind of fear a little bit.
Yes, and I feel that's me with like being like handicapped, like disabled. Like I feel like I've always had this like thought in the back of my head, but now that like when I'm working with these children, I'm like how lucky am I? But like at the same time, like I have such strong empathy towards these kids
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
adults.
And adults, right. Yeah. Yeah, true, true. Okay. Well, that was so eloquently done. Mine are in bullet points, so it's not
That's
gonna
okay.
be.
Nope. You I had them in bullet points and I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know what we're needing, so I just made an essay.
No, I think that's so great. Well, and I just like I appreciate you. Well, I really appreciate you going first and just being so honest because like this is un it's kind of uncomfortable. Like
I agree.
it's kind of uncomfortable, kind
It
of
made me sit
holding a
back and
mirror up to your
realize, like,
yeah.
I feel like I had so much more, but I was like, okay, what are my like big three?
Right, right. Like, what are
Yeah.
my big three? Right.
Hmm.
And like, I don't know about you. I mean, you're not to point out the age difference is more than it needs to be, but you're a young woman, just starting like I am a middle-aged white lady in Iowa from a very privileged background. It is I mean, I gotta be careful not to be a Karen. Like to be I like you have to really check yourself when you're
Yeah.
somebody like me.
I
Like
feel
it's
like I have my
rude.
Karen moments though. It's
Okay.
okay. Especially with my food. I don't play around with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. All right. Well, moving, I guess, into my privilege. And I think I had a little bit of the same of yours, but I started, of course, with my racial privilege. I'm a white lady. I don't have to think about my race. I've never really had to think about race. I fit in pretty much anywhere I have been. Um, whether that's, professional educational institutions. I have had a lot of ease navigating systems in my life, education system, work systems, healthcare. With my children, race has never been an issue. I mean, even today, I don't think you're in Des Moines, are you?
No, I'm over by the Burlington Keokuk area.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm in Des Moines. So today, the president was in our city, and there was a pretty large protest. Um,
I
and
did
I
see
was
that.
just looking around like I'm freezing my ass off at this protest, and I'm thinking like it's powerful. It feels powerful to be here, but it's also like I I'm not worried about anything happening to me, you
Right.
know? Anyway, um, educational privilege for sure. I think like it was always just assumed growing up that I would go to college, that we would figure it out. I mean, I didn't have a ton of money, but I certainly didn't grow up in poverty. And I always just knew that we would find a way for me and the rest of my siblings to go to school, beyond high school. And so I always felt comfortable with that and just being able to again, kind of navigate those systems. Um, and then socioeconomic stability, relatively socioeconomically stable. Like even when I was a young woman, single mom, and I didn't have very much money at all, but I still was not in poverty. I still had a home. I could still buy groceries. I could still afford to take my kid to the doctor if I needed to. Um, so I didn't have any kind of like, I had a little bit of stress for a few years around money, right? But nothing like that I would consider, you know, not a privilege. Um, so let's see. My biases and prejudices. One that I had was I feel like I can unconsciously equate responsiveness, good communication skills, follow through, with motivation, reliability, or care. So to me, like when I wrote that, I meant like I feel like I have a lot of kind of middle class ideas around like being on time, you know, responding to email, you know, planning, being professional. And I think that just comes from a lot of years of being in systems and functioning at a high level and being professional. And so when somebody isn't, I think I may unintentionally judge people, but I think it's gonna be I'm gonna have to keep it at the front of my mind. Like, don't judge people who are disengaged. um, Recognize that are probably reasons for that, whether that's trauma or burnout or mistrust of systems. That's a huge one, especially, I mean, I did get to that point when working with parents in the school district. Like a lot of people didn't have great experiences with the school system. And so there's a lot of mistrust there. And I had compassion, and I do have compassion for that. Um, but I think like just getting deep in it, it's like I need to recognize that I might think like, well, if it mattered, they'd show up. Well, that might not be the case.
Right.
Instead, think things like what might be getting in the way, and just being curious rather than judgmental. I think is probably like the through line for all of these is just be curious. Um, the second prejudice that I brought up, or bias, I guess, I think I think I give more weight, or like more credence, I guess, to people who communicate clearly and calmly and like in ways that are good kind of
Right.
ways, right? Um, that's probably from like a lifetime of being a little bit of a people pleaser and like that kind of stuff too. But you know, messy communication doesn't necessarily mean that there's less uh any less value to what's being said. So I think it's about seeing people for what they are trying to communicate, not necessarily how well they're articulating themselves, and not undervaluing people who get emotional, you know, or disorganized with their communication. And like also, I said, I think that sometimes I think that people should know how to advocate for themselves. Um, like, well, the questions I wrote, like, why didn't they just ask for help? Or like, why didn't they use the resources that were available to them? And that again circles back to there might be mistrust there, there might be bad experiences there, there might be, you know, trauma there, um, lived experiences that I don't understand, or I haven't, you know, aren't part of my lived experience. So anyway, that's that's what I was thinking. And I just think, you know, moving from a place, I don't think I'm like a super judgmental person or anything like that, but I think like just being really thoughtful about this is it's important, and it is uncomfortable, and it probably should be, because that means maybe that we're actually getting to, you know, the kernel of what actually is an issue or could potentially be an unconscious issue. Um, I think impact on counseling practice, again, just a risk of assuming the reasons for client behavior. and or trying to interpret client behavior. Um, and just remembering and knowing, and I think I do, and I hope I continue to know that I have an ethical obligation to be self-aware and to be reflective about my own like implicit biases and some strategies. And you named a few of these too, but of course, supervision. And I think probably just trying to find people that are going to be someone that's going to be a good supervisor, or people that are going to be like good to consult with, not just kind of tell you what you want to hear or not, actually do you
Right.
have probing questions that will make you better? And really naming the discomfort rather than trying to avoid it. Um, and asking rather than assuming and being curious and not and realizing that I'm never going to be bias free. It's in the air that we breathe, we have years and years of lived experience that have created these feelings and or these beliefs that are not really our beliefs
Hmm.
necessarily, but they're a script sometimes that play in our head. And it's just being aware of that and being accountable to that and willing to keep learning. And I guess willing to like be aware of um, knowing what we don't know about ourselves yet, or knowing there are things that we don't know about ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's what that's what I had.
I liked your points because um I also grew up like in a home where like money was never really an issue.
Hmm.
So I never had to like worry, I guess.
Hmm.
And now I'm 23. I'm like a little bit on my own and I feel like
Uh-huh.
I have so many things to worry about and like money specifically. I have a really
Yeah.
bad spending habit that I'm trying to break and make this my new goal. But when you had said oh my goodness, I'm blanking now. I have saw this video and it was a
Hmm.
Bible verse and it was about you like judging but not judging. But it kind of just
Hmm.
reminded me because this quote says from the Bible and it's like, who am I to judge another when I myself walk as an imperfect person? And it kind
Hmm.
of just makes me like think back and realize that like no one's perfect and we're all trying to just live in this world. So I
Hmm.
liked that because I felt like I just needed to share that quote because to me it impacted my thinking of who am I to judge when I'm
Right.
like there could be someone judging me right now because I'm
Well,
doing
there absolutely is, right?
something they're not is not normal for them. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think
yeah.
that's one of the constants that
Yeah.
will always be the case. There will always be someone.
Yep, always.
Right.
Could be
Right.
my own family.
Probably. No, I know. All right. Well, do you think we hit everything?
I think we did.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video.